Hey, everybody. Thanks for listening to the Smart Hustle Podcast. My name is Ramon Ray, where we inspire and educate small business owners to start and grow successful businesses so they can live the lives they want, providing for their families and supporting their communities, or supporting their families and providing for their communities, whichever way you want to spin it. But I'm so glad you are here with us. If you're hearing the sound of my voice, watching this video, whatever it is, could you give us a 5-star rating on the podcast networks? If you hear something and you don't like it, still give a 5-star rating. That's fine. We don't mind. But again, I'm glad you're here with us on the Smart Hustle Podcast. I have someone who I'm going to call my friend because I feel like she's my friend because I've heard her lovely voice for so long now on the Clubhouse audio only platform, and the show that we're a commonality on with 80 plus of our closest friends is Breakfast with Champions. So Liza Borches, I believe I'm pronouncing it right. If I'm not, you'll correct me in a minute. President of Cartermeyers Auto Group in the Virginia area. Welcome to the Smart Hustle Podcast. And I'm so glad you've chosen to spend a bit of time with us today, Liza. How are you? And thanks for joining me.
I am fantastic. And I am so happy to spend time with you. It's wonderful to see your face as well as to have a one-on-one conversation. I listened to your segments and have absolutely loved the thoughts that you have provoked in so many of us during your time on Clubhouse. So thank you for having me.
You're welcome. I appreciate that very much. So let's dive right into it. Can you tell us a bit about Cartermeyers Automotive? I mean, people can guess, and it's pretty obvious what the word may be, but who knows? Maybe you do. Maybe you sell water bottles. Maybe it's a ski company. Maybe, I don't know. But tell us about CMA, what it is, who you serve. Tell us all about it.
I would love to. As you mentioned, I'm the president of our auto group. We are in automotive. Transportation is our thing that we fund our business with, but we are really in the people industry. We are a 97-year-old company. It technically goes beyond that, but the corporation that I'm the president of right now is technically 97 years old. I'm the fourth generation of my family to have the honor and the privilege to lead this organization. I've been with CMA since 2003 when I officially joined the company, and I've been leading the organization since 2011. I think a little bit that it's important for you to know about CMA so that we can dig deeper into all the different topics that you want to dive into today, is to understand that our company is very unique. While we're in the automotive industry, I said that really we're a people company. Our mission is to move lives forward for our associates first, then for our customers and our community. And we are one of 5 dealership groups in the country who is owned by our employees. We're family and employee owned. So our employees, we call them associates, own 26% of our company. And as we've grown, we look at some of the top shareholders of our company. Number 3 is a technician, or he was a technician when he started with us at 17 years old. He's now the service director of one of our Honda stores. And he's the 3rd largest shareholder in our company. We've got stories like that along all of our different owners. So unlike most organizations, everybody in our company is an owner. They share the responsibility for the future of our company. They also share in the success of our company. So when we think about why we might be around for another 97 years, it is all because of understanding what it takes to move someone's life forward and how we have the opportunity and the benefit of using transportation to do that for our customers. You know, transportation is one of the most important things in people's lives. It's what allows us to take our child to soccer practice, to visit a loved one in another state. And it's what, in most cases, gets us to work every day so that we can support our family. There are metro areas where people use public transportation, and now we've got a lot of people working at home. But I don't believe that transportation will ever not be an important part of how people get where they want to go in life. And we are blessed to be able to be in this industry.
Absolutely. And Liza, you said transportation enables you to take your child somewhere. And for me, it's like waking up on Saturday morning when somebody left that much milk in the fridge. You can get in your vehicle and go pick up some more. So you could walk too, but so that's
you could
weirdly
uphill both ways in the snow.
Exactly. Liza, let's talk about the employee ownership briefly. I don't want to go too long in legal issues, but help us understand employee ownership. How does that result for somebody's dollar? Does that mean if you sell out to whoever tomorrow, oh, we got a big exit and could buy more foosball tables? Or is there some monetary distribution or something like, hey, you get paid, you have your pension or retirement, and since you're an owner, just like Liza would be or other members, you get a share, a third part at some point? Just can you help us understand that employee ownership?
There's a lot of different ways that the ownership comes into play. Certainly one way is when someone leaves or retires, we buy their stock back. And the way that they get stock is that every year we put a portion of our profits, we contribute, so they don't put in $1. We contribute a portion of our profits into the employee stock ownership plan. It gets spread across all of our associates by a combination of their percentage of the payroll and how long they've been with us. So the longer you're with us, obviously, the larger that egg grows and that stock. So when they leave, we purchase their stock back. We don't want anyone owning stock who isn't putting in the sweat equity in our company. Or when they retire, we then buy their stock back. And depending on how long they've been with us, it could be that we buy it back over a couple of years. But also, if we ever did decide to sell, which is not in my plan, but if we did, everybody would benefit from the value that we've added and grown in this company over the years. Their stock would be just like my stock, and whomever bought us, they would get paid out their portion. So it's a great retirement vehicle. It's also somewhat of a forced savings. And the harder that they work and the more they perform, the better our results are, the more money we contribute each year. And it's a double win because then our stock price goes up. So as an ESOP, you have to have an individual stock evaluator. I won't go into all those details. He looks at all the public automotive companies and he evaluates our stock each year. So the better we perform, they get a higher contribution, our stock price goes up. And there will be some people this year, Ramon, who, because we've had a fantastic year, we'll have some people, some technicians, some people who work in our office who will get a larger increase in their stock. Let's say it's $75,000 increase, more than what they made in a year.
That's beautiful.
It's crazy. And that's the result of having a really great year this year. And I am so proud of that. It is a win-win. It's one of our core values, are creating win-win partnerships. And to have a win for the associate, it's a win for the company. It's a win for the customer because our associates care that much more because they are an owner of the company. It's a big deal. It's a win for all of us.
For sure. One thing I'm curious about, Liza, and feel free to, ask any question, answer any question you want. But when I hear your voice and the bit I've gotten to know you and our mutual friend, Scott Simons, how do you find or how do you identify people who would carry the CMA brand and name and et cetera forward? Because you could just hire someone to sell cars. That's probably pretty easy.
Right.
Anybody can do whatever, not anybody, I'm not making it small, but that's one aspect. But it seems that you may have some incredible humans in the organization who really care about people. So how do you find them? And I guess a dual question, how do you balance the money, the sales? We have to make a profit. We're a business though, versus, let's do the right thing. Let's have a good heart. If you understand where I'm trying to go with that question.
Well, the most important answer to your question is when you do the right thing and you've got a good heart, the money usually comes. You usually sell more, usually connect more. You've got lifetime customers. So that's the easy answer. It's not always easy in the moment. In fact, we just finished a 2-day general managers summit. And we talked about the difference in a producer mindset and a customer mindset. And sometimes there's a conflict there. And there was I don't know if I can hold this up to the screen, but we were looking at the payoff matrix. And I don't know if you use this or you're familiar with it, but you got your matrix. Yeah. And so we talked about that at length and how that can create conflict in our day-to-day processes. And whether we're talking about the short-term benefit, which is creating a long-term consequence, and what are those short-term consequences that we have to take for the long-term benefit? And you have conflict with that in every business. But I think in automotive, we see it every single day. I believe in the last couple of decades that conflict has dissipated some. I think we now look at every sale and every time we're servicing a customer as how is this a win for the customer and a win for the associate and a win for the company? And there's less conflict than there used to be. In fact, we even learned over the last 2 days, and this was such I think an important statement for us in automotive. Oftentimes we think in sales that if a customer is more naive, that the person selling something is going to be able to make more money. Maybe they don't negotiate as hard. Maybe whatever it is.
Yes.
And excuse me, I just saw this horrible light coming at you.
That's okay. No problem.
We discussed.
That's because what you were saying was so powerful. The light just.
Yeah. We were saying, how could we as a company be the company that when our customers are more educated and smarter about transportation, the process, that it benefits us. And we want to be the one to educate them so that they feel confident and strong coming to us, knowing that when they're educated, it's a win for all of us. Because I think that's that old age conflict in sales, not just in automotive, that if the customer's not as educated, they're all naive, that that there could be a win for the person selling. And so we had some great discussion over the last 2 days with our leadership team around that concept. But I think I skipped over your question. You said, how do you find people who are going to be a good culture fit for the organization?
That was, it was part of it, but you did answer it in part as well, but continue,
Yeah,
please.
I think it does. You mentioned the word good heart. Earlier today, I was actually on a call with a gentleman who's writing a book about entrepreneurship, and he asked me the 3 greatest challenges of an entrepreneur. And we walked through the difference in the journey and someone at an organization that's maybe 10 people, really a startup. You got to take a lot of risks to get over. And then the change in mindset when you're at 100 or 1,000, like we are. And we were discussing where those breakdowns are in the culture. And I said, the number one breakdown is when we are not extremely stringent and strict on ourselves in our hiring process. And right now, the employment industry, we hear about it all the time, how tough it is to find great people. When we talk about what that interview needs to entail, and we say that the first person who interviews, you ask a lot of questions, just understanding their background, their capacity, would they have the ability to do the job? Then you have 3 or 4 people interview that person who would be working with them. Maybe it's a potential coworker, another manager in the building, somebody from a different department that would interact. And those people are trying to look to see, are they a good team fit? Are we going to be able to communicate? Do they understand teamwork? Are we going to have a good connection? And then it wraps back around to the original hiring manager. And the hiring manager needs to start asking those culture questions. And you have to find questions that aren't answers that people can make up, and you've got to read into their answer a little deeper. And then the other piece is around not just the questions, but when you're checking references. It's not checking the references they put on the application. It's going deeper and saying, who did they work with at a previous organization? And one of the best ones that we do in our industry is we can get references from vendors, because I think it says a lot about a person, how they treat a vendor relationship, especially someone they don't do business with. If it's a sales manager at another dealership, we all use the same vendors. We can call and ask a couple of the people that call them, how does that person treat you when you come in the organization? It tells you so much about their heart. It tells you whether they lead with kindness and respect. And so we try to do a little bit of a different reference check. And that final interview has to be around culture fit questions. We talk a lot about our story and our ESOP and what it means to share ownership, because it does take a different sort of person to want that responsibility. And ESOP only works if that responsibility is carried both ways. We give ownership and they have to share in the responsibility. And the last thing I'll say about that is we talk about that we are not a company who wants people on cruise control. And we say it very clearly and early. If you're coming to put your foot on, take your foot off the gas and be on cruise control and have just a happy-go-lucky job, we want you to be happy, but we're going to have high expectations of you. And if we, in that interview, even find out what that person wants out of life and say, our job is to move your life forward, help you get there, and then in return, here's what we're going to ask you to do. But it has to be a two-way street. We can't just tell them what we expect of them. We have to say, here's what we're going to be doing for you too. It's a two-way street. So, there's no silver bullet on how you find the right people to fit your culture, but I think it goes back to following the process, taking your time wherever we have breakdowns. When I see that we have a cancer in the organization or we have a team that obviously is not living by our mission, it's usually because we hired out of desperation. We didn't follow the process. We didn't follow our gut. We didn't ask those right questions.
I like that. And do you sometimes, Liza, whether it's rhetorical or whatever, like say if you have to let go of somebody, whatever, yourself representing your managers and others, be like, wow, we screwed up. I'm hearing that your heart's kind of like, if I have
absolutely.
Morgan, we're not blaming you, even though they're responsible, but it's more like, we're so sorry that we even let you here because we should have stopped it. Is that kind of the heart you have when that happens?
We always say that 90% of the people that leave our company are our fault. Whether it's we chose to have them leave or they chose to leave. Either we didn't hire the right person or we did not give them the right tools, support, and coaching to be successful. There's a 10% of people that move because of family reasons or have a change in lifestyle, but I'd say 90% of the people who come to our organization and leave, it's our fault.
Yeah. Liza, can you tell me about what, we have to have another interview where I can interview you for 10 hours. What are the things that you focus on, Liza, as president of this amazing group? And what are things, I'm sure as the president, everything falls on your shoulders, but what things do you say, no, other people can do this, they can do it better than me, we got this. But what are the things that you wake up in the morning like, this is on my shoulder, I'm looking at the computer screen, this is all me, if that makes sense? Anything like that you can share with us? And that we can learn from you as business owners that we may want to model? That's the lens of the question.
I know very clearly that if I can wake up in the morning and say, I have the best leader at the top of each dealership, and at CMA and my COO, my CFO, my HR director, the people who then support the dealership operations, if I can wake up and say that that is the best person for that job, and there's a lot of definitions around best that I can go deeper into. If I have all the right people in the right places, I don't have to do a whole lot more on a day-to-day basis. Then I go to my next responsibility, which is looking out to the horizon, studying our industry, other industries, understanding where we need to be setting ourselves up for the next 97 years, and making sure that we are prepared and not with our head in the sand doing things the way we've always done it. Because our GMs, they're really focused on day-to-day in their dealerships. They don't have enough time to also be looking at the horizon. So we got to each take our own responsibility. So first responsibility for me is making sure I have the right people in all the right places. Then I look up and I look out, and I've got to be studying different ways to approach our industry than we've been doing it for the last 97 years. And then I think the third piece of the puzzle that I have to be paying attention to is, are there any cracks in the foundation of our culture? And sometimes that happens so slowly that you don't notice it. And so even if I have all the right people in the right places, I still have to be out there and be visible in our organization. Sometimes I see things that they don't see because they're in it every day. Yeah. And that means, dedicating a certain amount of time to walking around, talking to people, walking through our shops. I don't have to be doing it every day. That's the GM's job, but I do have to supplement the eyes and ears that they have in the organization to make sure that if there's a different lens that I can bring to make sure that those cracks are not starting to appear anywhere in our organization. I'd say those are my most important responsibilities. I think included in the area of the horizon is also acquisition and growth. That falls solely on my plate. We've done a lot of acquisitions over the last 10 years, building relationships in our industry with people who are in markets and with brands that we would be interested in the future, kind of creating those relationships, starting those conversations. That's included in the piece around the horizon, but the acquisition opportunities and then making those happen falls fully on my plate.
Yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot indeed. And so what I'm hearing, Liza, is that you don't have to wake up in the morning wondering, should we have blue stripes or yellow stripes on our asphalt? Somebody else can do that better than you, can focus on that. However, when should Cartermeyers Automotive Group sell NFTs? Sell NFT via cars? That may be something that you're not waking up as an example. Okay, let's consider doing that, whatever it is. Got it. And then maybe bringing a team together to help you think through it. But you're the one going to the conferences, talking to the people, what's happening out there. Is that fair?
Right. So we just spent the last 2 days with all of our leaders. And my first statement to them was, I said, I do not have all the answers. In fact, I don't even have most of the answers. But one of the important roles that I bring is I'm going to bring up topics that I think are relevant, that I'm seeing coming to our industry. And then I want to pick your brains. I'm going to get all your input. Then they'll go back to their stores, focus on day-to-day operations. I'm going to take my pages of notes from our meeting, start dissecting it, and then going out there and getting other voices, talking to other vendors, other industries to try to dive deeper. I'll bring it back to them, get their input, send them back to the stores. So we do have to use everybody's brains, but not all at the same time.
Absolutely. I love it. I want to talk also a few other questions, but I want to deviate a bit, at least deviating for me. But for the smallest of small businesses, Liza, any thoughts for them? You're dealing with a much larger organization, different things, but as you know, the circles we're on, we have a lot of really small people. They're like the web designer, or they're, I'm the coach or consultants. Any thoughts? Because you've been in our circle, you've heard some of the questions and get a sense of the community. When you hear some of the things, anything that Liza says, you know what, here's a few things that somebody who's a website designer may want to think of, or somebody who's a personal development coach, one person they have, or a fitness coach, anything that just curious comes to mind for Liza that they should do. Sometimes their growth is just, let me try to earn $150,000 this year. Let me try to earn gross of $200,000 this year. Anything comes to mind for those type of people?
I'm going to mention 3 things.
Okay.
The first thing, I think, when you're a very small business owner, maybe you're the sole employee, maybe you've got a handful of employees, I think your mindset has to be on take the risk.
Mhm.
Assuming that you don't want to just make $100,000 a year, like that you have bigger aspirations than that, right? When you're that small, you've got to say, I'm going all in. And if you're with me, if you're one of these 2 or 3 people that want to jump on board, we're a startup. I've got to take the risk that maybe this won't work, but making $100,000 a year every year and staying just like this probably isn't what I want to do. And so your mindset has to be, where can I go all in, knowing that it may fail, but I got to take the risk, I believe, to get over that hump so that maybe I get to that point where I have 10, 20, 25, 50 associates. And then I think you start to shift a little bit and say, now I'm responsible for these families. They joined me not because I was a startup that might fail, but because I'm a successful small business that's going to exponentially grow. And then you have to do a slight mindset shift. And I see a lot of entrepreneurs not able to make that shift. Either they start off too conservatively, and so they never really get their business off the ground, or they are a great risk taker that gets their business going, and they don't make that slight shift of, okay, now I'm responsible for these folks and I still need to grow fast, but I need to make more calculated risks because they're depending on me to be here for the long term. And there's a point in entrepreneurship that I hear a lot of people talking about, how do I take the leap? And then when do I start somewhat of a more stable, cautious growth? So understanding where that point is in your business, I think is an important tip. Another thing that I see often, and that we're focusing on right now, even in our company, is I believe that entrepreneurial people, whether you're a one person or a large organization that has that spirit, we tend to want to take everything on at the same time and move everything forward fast. Yes.
That's me.
And typically when we do that, so I went through and I read through all of the notes of all these meetings that we've had for the last year. And every time we have all these grand aspirations, we're going to fix the world in the next quarter. And ultimately we end up moving all of those balls a little bit. But this year for us, and I think this is relevant for really any size business that has that spirit, we have to focus on the most essential and make sure that we move that, whatever that issue is, exponentially forward and get it done. And I'll use an example of, we've been talking about making sure that a consumer can go on our website and truly buy a car all the way through as easily as some of these disruptors are. And right now we've got some tools on the website that you can do it. It's not quite as easy as some of the others. And we've been talking about this for 2 years, but that project sits on the place of one of my leaders who also has 20 other projects that we have also said are just as important. And so our word for the year is for this company is essential. And we want each leader, each quarter to pick one thing as the most essential thing that has to get done this quarter. And it doesn't mean that the other non-essential work isn't going to get done, but you need to make sure that in your day is scheduled so that every single day, whatever that one most important thing is getting moved forward in some way. And you have to schedule around it. Because I just watch entrepreneurs of all size. We are excited people. We get passionate and we just want to go.
That's
right?
me. Yes.
And so sometimes we look back and we're like, oh my gosh, we've been working our tails off, but we didn't get anything quite to the finish line.
Yeah.
So that would be my second piece of advice. I think the last piece that I would mention is around, with whether you're 1 or a 3 or a 5 small entrepreneur, you have to have your unique differentiating factor and I think that's a simple thing that everybody hears. And I'll go deeper into it. I hear a lot of coaches out there. I hear a lot of people that are in the same space, and I'm not always really sure why one might be different than the other. And so I think that as an entrepreneur, you have to be careful using the label that you hear everywhere else. I'm coaching on this. Well, don't even label yourself as a coach. Everybody, we got too many coaches out there.
We do.
Tell me what you're going to do that's different, and even find out what that little tag or your mission statement or what, it's got to be short and sweet, so that I know in a moment's notice why what you're going to be doing for me is different than the other 100 coaches that I've listened to over the last week. And I think it's easy to make that $150,000 that you were talking about being a coach. And I'm using coach as just an example. We've heard, But if you want to go beyond that and make an impact on more lives, and it's not just financial, I don't think that most people go into entrepreneurship because of financial reasons. It's usually because of their passion and their vision, and figuring out how you can so clearly articulate in 30 seconds or less why what you're going to do for me is different than the other 10 people. I've just been fascinated lately about how many people are in the same space. And I think they're all super smart and they all add a lot of value. But few truly differentiate themselves in the very beginning in a quick moment.
I love it, Liza. Liza, if I give you back some of your time, can I have another interview with you in a few more weeks or months? If I give you back some of your time?
Of course.
Good. No, just teasing you. So I have one more question. It's a political question.
Oh no,
And here's the
I
political
don't like
question.
those.
Yeah, you'll love this political question. Political question is this. Cartermeyers, what's the future for Cartermeyers Automotive? That's a political question. I say that all the time. I was on an interview yesterday with an executive. She was like, okay, but it wasn't what you thought. But what's the future for CMA? And I ask it like this, is that, as you said, there's a lot of disruptors in the market using the tech. We don't know their founding. We don't care about their founding. We just see the logo, whatever it is, billions of TV ads all over the place. I see, based on what I know, I'm not giving you advice on your own interview, but just I'd love to get your input, that what you all have best is that local feel in the Virginia area. My 2 cents, if I'm wrong, let me know. And to the brand, the humanity, the faces, the people, some of the people that we hear, man. So I'm just curious how, as a lesson for us, but also you as a leader, how do you blend that between being a .com company, possibly losing the mojo, losing your humanity, just scaling, versus being, we're CMA, we're a solid 97-year-old business, here built to last. If you understand what I'm trying to ask, how do you blend that two?
I don't believe that you have to be in person for you to have a human touch to your business. We are right now shipping cars every day to states around this country. The reason that people want to do business with us from Michigan or from Utah is still the relationship, the ease of doing business, and the fact that we are taking technology and wrapping it with a relationship. And I'm going to tell you a story from 50 years ago that you would say, why would a 50-year-old story be relevant today? But back in the day, my dad tells this story in our new hire orientation. There was a customer in New York that was a friend of a friend or something, and they leased a car from us in Virginia. And back then that didn't happen often. Leased a car, we sent it up there to them, an engine went out 10 months into the ownership. My dad's secretary at the time gets the phone call and tells my dad, and my dad's thinking to himself, we have 2 options. We can bring that car back down to Virginia and try to get it fixed, but engines are complicated things and we're gonna have to figure out how to drive it back and forth. Or it's under warranty. We can just send them to a local dealer and they'll figure it out and take care of them. And the secretary looked at him and said, Carter, the reason that customer came and bought from you was because of the relationship. Do the right thing. It's not easy, but you need to get that car back down here. She was a secretary. And he said, you're right. That's the reason they did business with us. And I believe that technology is going to allow us to be more efficient, to reach more people all over this country. But there is still a relationship, an assurance, a lifelong contact that we can provide to that customer, because transportation is not a black and white thing. It doesn't just work all the time and you buy and you're done. And I believe that that Cartermeyers Automotive will continue to grow when customers believe that we are essential to their life. It goes back to that word I started with, that our word for the year is essential. When COVID hit, the government determined what businesses were essential and who could keep their doors open, right? Automotive in the state of Virginia was considered essential and we were allowed to keep our doors open. But I asked my team the other day, I said, if our customers had to vote, would they have designated a dealership as an essential business? Would they have voted us on the island? I don't know that they would have. In fact, I'm pretty sure they wouldn't have, until their car broke down or they had to buy another car. And our job, the reason how we will be around another 97 years is by being in a business that is essential to our customers. And I know that when I start with my associates, and we're a business that is essential in our associates' lives, and they fill in the blank to say, I can't imagine my life without Cartermeyers Automotive. When we do that first with the people who are part of our organization, they're going to then create that same experience for our customers. So we're already learning how we can create that experience for people who never meet us. They never come to our dealerships, but they've learned to trust us as an organization who fulfills our promises, who can help educate them. Because the last thing I'll say, in the next 10 to 20 years, probably within the next 10, customers are going to be faced with decisions around transportation that they've never been faced with before. We've been selling internal combustion engine vehicles since 1920. There were a few EVs back in the early teens, and those went away. But between electric vehicles or other alternative fuel vehicles, whether subscription services or something else of the like, and at some point, customers are going to have to decide whether they're comfortable riding in an autonomous vehicle. If we make sure that we are the trusted go-to partner to help our customers through these unique decisions that they've never been faced with around transportation, if we set ourselves up for that, regardless of where they are in the country, we will be here another 97 years.
Wow, we need like music on that, a TED talk or something, balloons up. That was powerful, Liza.
I love what I do. I love
Yeah,
our
I can
team,
hear
and I'm
it.
so grateful that you asked me to be on here to share a little bit more about
Yes.
us.
Indeed. Liza, anything else I didn't ask you or anything you wanted to say before we go? And this has been great to have Liza Borches, president of Cartermeyers Auto Group. I hope you check their website out for your next vehicle, or just to check them out and see more about their story, which is really cool. We'll have this in the show notes. But anything you wanted to add, Liza, before we conclude this part
Well,
of
like
our
you said, we
discussion?
could talk for 10 more hours, so we'll talk
Yes.
another time. But I think I just want to leave people with the fact that our industry, automotive, we don't always get the best rap, but we have a lot of people who care. We have the opportunity to move lives forward for people all over this country around transportation. And certainly at CMA, that's what we're here to do. So thanks for having me.
You're welcome. And once again, everybody, this was Liza Borches, president of Cartermeyers Auto Group. I'm Ramon Ray, founder of smarthustle.com. You've been listening to the Smart Hustle podcast, where we inspire and educate small business owners to start and grow successful businesses so they can live the lives they want, providing for their families and supporting their communities. If you're hearing the sound of my voice, watching this video, or otherwise, please give us a 5-star review. In fact, give us a 1,000,000-star review. I've never seen one of those, but you can make it up if you want. And I'm so glad you spent the time with us today.